Let's make this kick drum sound like a kick drum.
And while we're at it, this acoustic guitar, we'll make it sound like an acoustic guitar.
Let's find a good patch and make this piano sound really nice. Let's make sure whoever's using this mic sounds like them through the PA. Now these things might sound so basic, but I've been traveling the country for the last decade or so, training worship teams and tech teams, and I get asked this question all the time, which is, how do I get a better sound out of my, and it could be any one of these channels. But today, let's talk about drums, because to be fair, it is the hardest thing to get right. And I get asked more about drums than any other channel out there. So it's over here. So we're gonna go this way to the drums. Okay, disclaimer, most of the things I'm gonna talk about in this video are basic, but that's the thing, is we complicate things so much. And a lot of times when we go back to the basics, a lot of times we get a better sound, especially in a smaller space like this. Now, the first thing I always tell people is if your drums are behind a cage, get them out of the cage so we can listen to them in the open air. And while they're out, you might as well vacuum and clean up all the junk that's in there that accumulates. Now, in this space that I work in, there is no cage, but a lot of churches have drum cages, whether they're completely enclosed or they're just a fiberglass shell that's preventing the sound from hitting the vocal mics, which I'm gonna have a video on that at another time, because there is so much to say about drum cages and why you should have them, why you shouldn't have them, what else should you have, are they necessary, are they not necessary, do they do what you think, are they doing something else? That'll be a different video. But this church doesn't have a drum cage, we're not gonna worry about it. Okay, step one, kick the kick drum. Make it sound like a kick drum. Okay, remember when I said things were gonna be pretty much common sense? Yeah, so if you wanna have a better sounding kick drum in your PA, have a better sounding kick drum. Now, I'm not saying replace the kick drum. I'm saying let's tune this thing up and make it sound good. You might need some new heads, you might not, kind of depends. Also, if you need a video on drum tuning, this is not a tutorial on drum tuning, but there's an old YouTube video by a guy named Bob Gatzen, and it is awesome. And I'll put a link somewhere on here at this time so you know where to go. Okay, sometimes all I do when it comes to optimizing drums is I just tune them and they sound better and everything is better. So you might just need to tune your drums and you might be done. That might be it. You might find that that's what you had to do. But let's keep going. Okay, so now that you got your drums tuned, this next step I think is vitally important. How much drum should we put in our room? Now, every room is going to be a little different, so I don't really have an exact answer for you, but we'll use this space. So this space, if you're in the back of the room, you can have a conversation with somebody in the front of the room. I mean, you almost don't need a PA system in here. So obviously, with the drums, you can hear them. It's no big deal. You can hear the ambient sound of the drums easily. So why do we even mic them? Well, here's a misconception that a lot of people have. They think that if you mic a drum and you put it into your PA, it's going to feel or sound louder. Well, of course it's going to sound louder. Why wouldn't it sound louder? Not necessarily. That's where the chart comes into play. So let's look at this chart for a second. So I've got ambient, we got our kick drum here, okay? We got our kick drum down here. We got ambient sound, we got microphone signal, okay? Just the kick drum. So over here on the side, we've got a line for audible level, what we can actually hear. Then we've got just right, and we've got too loud. So up here, too loud. Down here, we can hear it, but it's pretty quiet. Here's the little Goldilocks area. This is kind of the zone we're shooting for. So let's say that our drummer is tasteful and he plays to the room. That's why we don't have a cage here in this space, because the drummer here, he's tasteful. So our ambient drums, let's say they go up and they sit, boom, right there in the ambient, tasteful realm.
Now, our microphone, here's the key. Our microphone signal, it can live anywhere in this space, anywhere. If we barely put it in, we barely hear it. If we go way up here, we hear it a lot. So all we're trying to do is shoot for some sort of target and put it in there.
Now let me explain this point a little further, because you might be confused on like, okay, what do you mean? Why are we putting it in the PA if I can already hear it? Well, a kick drum has a lot of low-end information, okay? And so just because you hear the hit, the attack, the transient tone of that kick drum, and it booms across the room, doesn't mean that you're feeling that low end. And that's where if you have subs, like here, we have subs, you want some low information to be mixed in with that ambient tone. That's where this chart comes into play. Now we can take that and we can apply that to any other channel on the drum kit, whether it's the snare or the toms or the overheads. All of that applies. You can do all that. In this space, what we do is we don't stream to live stream. So I have no need for overhead mics. I just don't. I don't need them, because this room, I hear all of that ambient sound just fine. But I do mic the snare, I do mic the kick, and I do mic the toms, because what I want to do is I want to add just a little more attack or low end or sparkle or maybe a little reverb or something. I'm looking for something to add into the PA. Now, this only works in this situation. You see how there's no drum shield here. There's no drum shield to prevent any of that information bleeding into vocal mics and stuff like that. And there's no room to capture all that ambient sound in, because the drummer here plays tastefully. And we're definitely going to have a video on playing tastefully. But that's where, like for this scenario, he plays with some brushes and some hot rods and stuff like that to kind of tone down the volume level. So we can get away with no drum shield because he listens to the room and he plays to the room. Now this is just scratching the surface, and I can only give you an example of my room because that's what I record in. So if your room is shaped differently, if you have a different size, if you're bigger, if you're smaller, if you have a drummer that likes to wail away at things, or you've got an electric drum kit, or you've got a whole room for the drums, or you don't even use drums, or you run tracks instead of drums, or there's so many scenarios that could be possible. I can only show you the one that works in this room. But this weekend, try these things out. If you got a chance to tune your drums before the weekend, great. But try the whole mixing, listening to the ambience, and then bringing in, filling in with your microphones. And let me know in the comment section how that went for you guys. But please make sure to like, subscribe, all that stuff, comment, and we'll see you in the next video.